Hello and welcome back. Today I have the lovely Lucy with me and we're going on a completely new route to topics that I have sort of spoken about, but it all does cross over and I'm really excited because obviously I come from a dance background, so it all crosses over. So Lucy has been doing pole for how long now?
10 years this year.
But that's gone quick.
Yeah.
So me and Lucy have known each other for ages, but it's crazy like when people like still connect through school and stuff, which is awesome. So we're just going to be talking a little bit about that. And I know you have quite a few topics that you want to highlight that are important to you and also for your industry. And I think there's so many misconceptions and also things that people, I guess, are unaware of.
Yeah, I feel like pole is really misunderstood as a sport in general. So it's good to kind of speak about those topics and make people more aware of what actually goes into the sport and the training.
Yeah.
So I mean, obviously I could talk about it all day. So.
I love it. I'm here for it. And also I find that like when you sort of said about it, I was like, oh, actually there's going to be so many things that like I won't know about as well. So it's awesome. So we've got loads of topics sort of just to delve into. But I guess starting a good place to start is just kind of how like the physical and mental side of it and the health benefits. And obviously it is like a sport. It can be some people's hobbies. But sort of how did you, I guess, get into it from that route? Was it that you just enjoyed doing it?
Obviously going back like to the start, I got into the gym when I was maybe like 15, 16, like quite young. And then was going to the gym for a bit and I just got really bored. Like, I think because at that point, when obviously being that age, I didn't have any like structure to my workouts or anything.
Yeah.
I was literally just turning up.
It's hard at that age. You don't really have a clue, do you?
I
don't even know what a muscle is. Like,
yeah, literally. So I was just like bopping around, not really getting anywhere. And then I was like flicking through Facebook, right? This just shows how old I am. I was flicking through Facebook and there was this video of this woman and she was on Ukraine's Got Talent. And I just remember watching this video of her, she won. And it was just insane, like everything she was doing. And I was like in complete awe of her. And I was like, I need to do that.
Yeah.
And straight away I was like Googling.
Yeah, like trying to find, because you don't really know. Like there's not loads. It's not like a saturated sort of market in that
especially
sense.
Then as well, at that point, pole was still so like hush, like no one really spoke about it. If they did it, like there was maybe 1 or 2 studios in this whole area. And then I started, so I was 17 when I first started and like I couldn't even drive yet. My mum used to have to drop me off at the classes. I've been, doing it since then and it just kind of, like I just fell in love with it straight away. Like, and I think because I already had a little bit of a fitness background, I kind of picked it up quite easily.
Yeah.
But I just loved it. And I was like 1 hour a week, then turned into like 2 hours a week and then more and more.
You end up picking up, It's kind of like when I started all my dancing stuff, it'd be 1 class and then it'd be more. And
and this is the thing, I think, because pole was like, it's just so fun and like you don't feel like you're working out super hard. I mean, like you still obviously feel it and it's still really tough, but because you're having fun and you're learning something new, even though it's still challenging, you're not really thinking about that part of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of people pick it up because so many students that I've had, some of them do have fitness backgrounds or dance, ballet, gymnastics, things like that. But quite a lot of people, they have no fitness experience. And like, it's the one thing that they look to get into.
People are like, oh, it's different. Like, let's throw myself into it.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously, like for the confidence and stuff as well, it's just insane. Like,
and I think that's some of the best part. And I always talk about confidence through the gym. And I know you still do quite a bit of gym training as well. Like what you can get from that and no matter what sport that's in, when you're confident in yourself. And it kind of has that element to it because you get more confident as you feel you get better at the movements, I imagine. And just that you can take that confidence wherever you then go.
Definitely. And like pole as well is just such an empowering sport because it has that like sexy side to it.
Yeah.
So like you have women who I've literally so many times over my years of teaching, women come in and they're so like shy and quiet, and they're wearing like leggings and a t-shirt or whatever, and they think, oh, I'm never going to be able to wear like shorts and a crop top or something.
Yeah.
And I always laugh and I say, well, one day you're going to need to, because you need the skin to grip, obviously.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no. And then, you know, a year down the line, or not even that, sometimes it's like they become this whole new person. And
so
like,
nice. It's so rewarding.
Yeah. And just to see them go through that transition of being so like self-conscious and shy and nervous to being this whole new woman that's like loves herself and is like so empowered. That's one of the main reasons why I love teaching so much.
Yeah.
Because it's just amazing to see them like,
and I
grow.
think that self-confidence is huge. And really does make a difference. You know, I spoke about it even when sort of went on holiday last week, being on my own, like that if you're like having confidence in yourself, it helps with things like that as well. And just doing little things and knowing that you can even just go to a coffee shop on your own, like little things, it can really impact people's lives in the most positive way, which is awesome. And so as you started, did you then just gradually feel stronger? No, you wanted to sort of take it another step further, then start teaching? Like, was it just the progressiveness of it?
Yeah, I guess like I kind of progressed in terms of my ability. And then I thought to myself, like, you know, I'd quite like to teach and like see how I can get into that.
Do you have to have qualification? Like how does it work? Like I don't know the part. There must be, obviously there has to be, but I don't know.
Yeah, you still have to have qualifications. Obviously like first aid and insurance and all that stuff. But the qualifications are basically done in like levels. So
okay.
There's different companies that you can do qualifications with. But yeah, basically they're normally split. So you can either do beginner, intermediate, advanced, or sometimes they divide it into like level 1 and 2 and then level 3 and 4. But even for like the flexibility and stuff, you have to have all your qualifications for that, because this is one of like the main issues I think with the pole industry, is because it's not governed by anyone. So like, you know, say with bodybuilding, for example, you have like federations and like they oversee how things are done, right? And make sure that everyone's following a certain like standard. There's nothing like that for pole.
Okay. So is that what people are trying to sort of develop into?
I think that's what should be done personally, but I don't know like who's going to create this like
federation,
thing, you know? But like there's some in Europe and America that are slightly like bigger organizations, but in terms of individual studios and instructors that work in those studios, there's no one checking whether they're insured or whether they have qualifications. And like, unfortunately, a lot of the time there'll be people that are teaching without the qualifications.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's dangerous. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not something to sort of, especially someone else's body. It's the same as like PT and strength stuff. Like, you know, at the end of the day, you still got to look after that human.
Yeah, definitely. I think as well, though, it's sometimes like with pole, for example, let's say if you're a good instructor and you have a good understanding and you have like experience, you can get away with teaching without needing a qualification. Yeah. But just again, in terms of safety and stuff like that, like it's needed. But yeah,
because you have competitions as well.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. Is like with the whole like federation thing. So we've got ones like IPSF, which is International Pole Sport Federation, but they are just focusing on competitions. So like they run certain competitions which are, I don't know, like based in Europe, or they're based in like, they do like the world competitions. Yeah. And within their competitions that they set, there's a certain standard, right? But then another competition that's run in the UK that's small and just run by one person, they don't have to meet that same criteria. They can do sort of whatever they want, really. Yeah.
And how within the competitions, like how does it work? Like what do you get judged on, I guess, is probably the best way, because obviously I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a whole new world.
Yeah.
So it's basically like So the competitions, again, they're normally all self-funded. So whoever decides to hold a competition, they have to pay everything themselves because there's no government funding or anything.
Yeah.
And like, again, this is why it's quite frustrating because pole, it's not treated like any other sport.
Yeah.
If you take gymnastics or something where it's very similar to pole, there's so much funding and there's so much money in the sport where they can do these things and they can run big competitions and go to the Olympics and blah, blah, blah. But with pole, there's like not that support there. But anyway, you have to, basically, you pay to enter and you put in like a video entry round.
Okay.
So the video entry, it can be, normally it's between like 3 to 3.5 minutes long of a full routine. And then you enter into what category you think is best, like by your ability.
Okay.
So most people think that within the competitions, like to go into a certain category, you have to be able to do certain moves.
And how are the categories split? Is it levels or?
Yeah, it's levels, or sometimes it's like instructor to amateur. And then, so say for example, like I'm competing again at the end of June, and that one is all elite category pole dancers. So the caliber is very high. But even that is still divided into
like it's then
I think
split
it's
up
semi-pro,
again.
pro, elite, and then something else, I can't remember. But the top category, that's like invite only. So, which is really cool.
Yeah,
That's going to be me one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it depends. And then some of them, like newer competitions, they sometimes divide it into like showcase or performer or something like that. So it gives.
And I guess like stuff of how like slick things are, how smooth like moves are. I'm guessing it's that sort of thing that they look for.
Yeah. So the way that they judge it is they divide it down into sections. So you'll be marked on not necessarily the moves that you have in there, but how you execute them. So how you get in, how you get out, your lines. So like, you know, making sure that your legs are straight, toes are pointed.
Yeah.
There's no
all those little fine-tuned details that make such a difference, I guess, to the overall picture of what they're looking at.
Yeah, definitely.
Like obviously a lot of that covers sort of similar in dance and stuff, but and people just want, I guess it's that nice presentation, which I guess is the most like practice.
But sometimes you're marked even on your costume and like how that relates to the song.
Cool.
And then obviously you're marked on like your musicality and stuff like that. So the judging criteria is quite in depth.
Yeah.
And like for me and obviously other like competitors, they will read that judging criteria and literally go through every single point. Like, have I got this? Have I got that? Like, do you meet the highs and the lows in the music?
Yeah. And I guess then as well, do you get your feedback? Do you get it back? So then you can know how to navigate next comp or anything
really
sort of how you want to improve. And I guess so many similarities in this, like in the sense of bodybuilding as well, which is pretty awesome in terms of how the sort of thing they run and look after. And it's always handy having your feedback based on the sport that you're in, just to improve on and know sort of how to, when you then next compete as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So cool talking about this. And I guess something that you really wanted to talk about, which you said is sort of just the stigma around it. And obviously you've got men and women that could do it, but obviously I guess a lot of women is a sort of a dominated sport in that sense. Yeah. But sort of just, what sort of are the views that you've experienced or even like stories or anything around that have really impacted, I guess, how you've...
Yeah, it's just like, it's a interesting topic because when I first started pole, again, like I said, everyone was kind of very hush about it and they didn't really say that they did it because obviously I was a bit younger as well, but like if I said to people, oh, I've started doing pole, it was, oh, what are you doing that for? Are you going to go and work in Tiffany's in Aldershot or whatever?
Yeah.
And it's just like kind of all negative like connotation.
Yeah. And I also think with things like that, and it's like, And
Yeah.
like,
Literally.
do you know, like, you know, if, hang on a minute, what are you earning money for? Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different opinions, and I guess people can sort of come straight in with that.
Yeah. But now it is changing, and it's like, if I say to people that I do pole now, they're like, oh my God, you must be so strong, or you must be so flexible, or this is. So the way that people view it definitely has changed, or is changing, but there is still a lot of that stigma there. So like, you know, men in pole feel like they can't tell people that they do pole, or people assume that they must be gay or whatever. And it's just like, actually pole it's like you said earlier, it's like Cali. You get so strong, and like the men, annoyingly, they do have like a genetic advantage anyway, like, and they pick it up so easily, and things that I've worked like 10 years to do, they're just like done it.
Damn.
It's so annoying, but it's really hard to break down that stigma, because I think it's just so ingrained in society. And
I think a lot of people think it's that kind of like old-fashioned sort of look into things that a lot of people have, and it's well, I guess similar with bodybuilding in a sense. Like, you know, so many people have the negative connotations of it, and it's like, it's a sport, isn't it? Like, you know, it can work to like the extreme sport, and it's you're pushing your body through limits, and that's what it's about as well, and just having the empowerment from that. And I think, you know, there are so many different like sports that anyone can pick up on. Definitely. It's like, why is it now suddenly you put a pole in the middle of it, and it's like, all the wrong things.
People always underestimate how hard it is as well. So it's like, when you have these like more closed-minded people that think that, you know, you're just dancing around a pole, it's like, well, you should try.
Yeah, because you give it a go.
It's fucking hard.
Yeah. I know I've had some friends who have like tried classes and stuff, and they've come back and been broken afterwards.
It's literally like you say, you're pushing your body to the max, like, especially if you're in competition prep or whatever. It is the same as bodybuilding. Like, you have to be so strict. I'm training like multiple hours every day. Like, you have to first of all, obviously, build the whole choreo.
Do people have coaches? Yeah,
I don't personally, but people do like use coaches still, because it is beneficial. Obviously, there's still people of a higher level like than me or whoever. So if you've got someone there to guide you, that's really helpful.
I guess maybe had experience in the industry as well.
Yeah, definitely. But just for me personally, like, I just don't really. But and it's, I think also a lot of the thing around the stigma is people just jump straight to the whole like stripper thing, but they forget that we wouldn't have pole without strippers. So it's like, you can, you know, sit there and try and like tear them down, or say to me like, oh, you're like gonna be a stripper or whatever, and it's just like, well, no, but we should give them like credit. They literally
they're doing the sport.
Exactly. And like, they basically paved the way for us to be able to now do this like as our
outside
careers.
of it being sort of in that environment. And it is hard. Like, it's tempted me to come and try a class.
You definitely should.
I would definitely be broken afterwards. But how, like, what are the sort of common things that, because obviously you have your own studio, you have like loads of classes a week and things, like, what do you find? Obviously, again, you have different levels as well into that. What do you find sort of like, does it take people like a couple of times? Do they then sort of does it then sort of click in their mind? They're like, oh, this is how it's working. Like, this is what.
I think like, so normally I'd say to all beginners, like, if they have no experience with anything else and it's their first session, I'll always say to them, give yourself like 6 weeks. Like, if you just stick it out for 6 weeks, then by the end of that, you'll see progress. Because I think what gets people is, you don't have to be strong to start, but it requires a lot, like,
of strength
from your body.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So even though when you're going to your first ever class, we're only going to be doing very beginner movements. I'm not going to get you to flip upside down and hang off of one leg and no hands on. Right.
Yeah.
Like, we're only going to be doing simpler like spins and stuff like that. But even that alone, it does use a lot of strength.
Yeah. And it progresses, right? Like, you know, as I guess, like you say, stick it out for that 6 weeks. I guess week by week, like it improves and sort of their strength improves and just how they sort of can maneuver themselves like around that. And that's what must be pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, because we do. So basically the way I structure the class is like after the warm up or whatever, we do a set of like conditioning movements.
Yeah.
So you're using the pole to strengthen. So whether that's kind of like leg raises or crunches or something, or sometimes we do like prereq movements for other tricks, right? So it's kind of hard for me to explain. Without showing you, but it's like that stuff that tends to be what is the hardest because that's just pure strength building. So like on the first class,
people underestimate conditioning as well. Like even like I know so many people. Like even in gym training, as you'll know, like you've got to use your core. Like it is the base of pretty much every single movement. You know, and by sort of adding in that conditioning, it just aids so much with, I guess, how their core is engaging during movements and sort of similarities in that sense.
I always say it's like a necessary evil because they hate doing it.
And it's like, suck it up. We just got to do it.
I've been in this game for too long. I have no sympathy for you. Like, get up the pole.
Yeah.
But yeah, they realise very quickly why it's so important because it also is like, it's to aid with like injury prevention and stuff as well because you learn how to correctly engage your shoulders and make sure you're not like hanging off of your arms, which is a really, really common issue.
So what sort of injuries do people struggle with from that? Like what are the common pole injuries?
Most common injuries is like pulled muscles in the shoulders or the back, like top of the back. The lats sometimes is another one.
People struggle like with elbows, like anything around
sometimes
there.
elbows, sometimes wrists, but that will just be like a weakness, just an area that obviously they need to improve and stuff. But the rotator cuff is quite a common one. I've done mine, and I also tore my bicep last year, I think it was.
Oh my gosh.
So that's fun.
That's a lot, yeah.
But yeah, and then the other common things is just like pulled hamstrings and stuff, because if you're not working towards your flexibility,
I guess if you're not warm as well and then like go full whack into something.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, under a class structure, like you should always be warm enough to do stuff. But if you're training on your own, especially if you've got a pole at home, like I can tell you now, they are not warming up properly and they're not doing enough conditioning.
Yeah. So you've still got to treat that just as sort of important.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's not something that you can just sort of miss at any exercise, anything like that. If your body's not warm, it's going to tell you quite soon it's not happy.
Yeah. And especially with pole as well, because like you're putting your body in such like compromising positions, right? Like sometimes we have our arms like behind our back like this and your whole body weight is hanging off of that arm. And it's
I was watching a funky one earlier, like your arm is behind your back. I was like, this is so fascinating. And you must also have to have, obviously, probably like focus a lot of flexibility on your legs and everything. But flexibility in shoulders and just mobility in general must be so important to highlight. And it's the same, like, say to people in bodybuilding, like, you can be the biggest person ever, but if you can't, like, do you know what I mean? We've still got to be mobile because you've got to be able to
that's the thing, like,
use it.
It's like, you can squat like, I don't know, 200 kilos or whatever, but you can't even put your own socks on.
Yeah. I know so many people. And actually, it'd be so interesting if we got people from the gym to do like
I would
a
literally
class.
love that. Just
and
like a free trial session would be hilarious.
I think I crease with the big guys at PAG.
Yeah.
And like, me and Lizzie always joke, like, she can't touch her toes. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, but so many people can't. You then, everyone like goes around, it's like, oh, like, I'll give it a go. It's so common. I mean, I've come from a dance background, so I'm not completely inflexible, but I'm definitely less flexible than I used to be. And it's a fascinating one of how little mobility actually the general population have.
Yeah, it's quite concerning, really, because like I always say, I mean, I'm a real advocate for flexibility, obviously, but like I always say to all my students, like the sooner you can start your flexibility journey within your pole journey, the easier it will make your life, right, with the pole stuff. But obviously I teach flexibility as well, and I've had people come to me with all different injuries, or they feel like they're really limited with certain movements and they want to improve that. And it's like it is so important, not just for your sport, but for your daily life.
Oh my
Because,
gosh, hugely.
yeah, I always just think like if you can't do that movement now, think about what you're going to be like when you're like 70.
Yeah.
Like, are you going to be able to carry your own shopping in? Are you going to be able to like put something up on a shelf?
Yeah.
Like functional movements that we do every day right now take for granted.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, obviously, again, it's something that I'm like passionate about, and I feel like everybody should stretch. But
Yeah,
it's just it's
do not
hard.
stretch enough as
Yeah.
much as I should.
And it's the consistency. Like if you want to actually see progress, flexibility training is so slow and it takes so long that you have to stick it out for like a minimum a year or something, you know, to see improvement.
Yeah. And that is a huge thing to highlight that crosses over with so much about what I speak about on the pod is the consistency of it. Like, you know, one pole lesson, you're not going to be sort of that top sort of level. You know, 2 pole lessons, you're still probably not. Do you know, it takes a long time along with the flexibility side of things. And again, it's not like you do one stretch session really like, or like have a really good week of like 2 or 3 stretch sessions. And it's, again, that's not going to happen unless you do that for months.
It's so hilarious because I mean, like I see it's probably the same for bodybuilding or whatever, but like Instagram and Facebook and stuff, they are the worst. I always see these adverts that's people like selling plans and they're like, oh, get your splits flat in like 6 weeks. And I'm just like, who believes that? You are literally, that is a lie. You're not going to be able to do that.
Yeah. And I think it's just bonkers that sort of, I think people like the speed.
Yeah.
People want things really
quick
quickly.
Fix, but it's just, it's not possible.
It's just not,
if you're doing it safely, then like it is going to take time. It's like you can rush it if you want, but like you're guaranteed to get injured at some point.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we want to keep the body safe. And obviously over time, again, that's going to improve so much sort of strength around that as well. But I guess on the flip side of that, I mean, I've had clients that have had it as well. Hypermobility, does that impact? I guess it impacts in the sort of opposite way. It's so hard because strength-wise, you've got to almost work the slight lower end of it rather than sort of pushing.
And
to what their limits
especially with pole, because I've got a few students that are like quite hypermobile, and they're just like noodles. They're like their body has no kind of like they're strong, but they don't know how to use their strength.
Yeah.
And then sometimes because they're so flexible, they just like dump into their back or something, you know, and then they're wondering, oh, why does my back hurt? And it's like, well, because you're not actually engaging, you're just allowing that to take all of the
most
weight.
rather than actually engaging your core. And
so it can be tricky sometimes because you've got to find that balance between like how to build the flexibility but also keep them safe specifically.
Yes.
Because I mean, I'm also hypermobile, like in my knees and my elbows. And when I was like training the splits, I had to really be careful because I have a lot of issues with my knees anyway.
Yeah.
So at least I kind of have that experience though, and I can like use that.
And it's the self-awareness as well, isn't it? The more aware you are of any niggles or anything that you have sort of within your body that, or like sort of just general anatomy, everyone is really different. The more understanding you can sort of just use that a little bit and not just ignore it. Which you sort of don't want to do in that sense.
No, I think through training anyway, like they do get a better understanding of their body. Because, you know, people, I'll be saying, say we're in a move and we have to have like nice straight legs. I'll be saying, all right, guys, like we need to engage your quads, like make sure you're squeezing, like nice straight legs, pointy toes. And people will literally be like, what's a quad?
Yeah.
And because they have like no fault of their own,
and
obviously. They just don't have that education as to like how to use their body. So then that's down to me to like explain to them why
like how you can engage that side of things. And I guess, do you have, you're going to have people in there that have had gym training.
Yeah.
Do you find that makes, do they sort of have a little bit more of a switch on to how they then engage their body in pole?
Yeah, they definitely would have a better understanding of like what's going on mechanically.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as well, they do get a little bit of a head start in terms of the strength because let's say you can just do like one unassisted pull-up. That will help you so much.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you don't have to be able to do that. And there is the other side. Even if you can do that, pole is so different to any other sport. It still doesn't guarantee that you're going to be like
it just could
strong.
mean that you've got a bit of an idea of how your body's engaging in that way, your shoulders and back and everything like that.
Yeah.
Because I guess form's pretty important.
Very important.
And like how you probably, well, obviously I'm not sure how you run your classes, but sort of the drills that I imagine you do just to sort of really knuckle that down and just get it into
that's
your
kind
head.
of what the conditioning's for, really. But you'll, from a like teaching standpoint, you kind of show the move, like demo the move.
Yeah.
And then let everybody like watch and see what we're doing. And then pole is so technical, so you have to break down everything. So like, especially when you get to that higher level and you're doing more intricate movements and like harder tricks and stuff. So sometimes, I'll have to break the move down step by step by step. But then even from that explanation, I still have to go over things again and again. Because
it takes time.
And it really is important, how your shoulder's engaged or where your hand is or what type of grip you're using or whatever it is. And obviously different students pick things up at different speeds and they learn different ways. So sometimes I have to like manhandle them into it and say like, put this arm there.
Yeah. I know. Sometimes I'm similar with that in PT, it's just sometimes, and being hands-on and practical, I love because you can see the penny drop sometimes with people, which is always awesome. And obviously you've done, how long have you had Gemini studios for?
Well, this is our 3rd year now.
Exciting. I don't know where time flies.
I know, it's crazy.
And you have you do events and things, and you do what sort of a little bit more, I guess, about the studio, sort of to give everyone out there if they are interested.
Well, first of all, obviously we have a range of classes throughout the week. So we do from very, very beginner pole to advanced pole, everything in between. And we do flexibility classes with splits and then general stretch and I guess conditioning for the flexibility.
And do you find some of your other sort of pupils come to those classes in line with their either private sessions or their class ones?
Yeah, there's a lot of crossover. I think most students, to be honest, do more than one class a week because they might do 1 splits and 1 pole or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then last year we did a summer carnival thing where we got involved in Farnham, local summer, I guess it's a carnival where they have all the local businesses there.
And all the stalls and things.
Yeah, and it was so hilarious because again, with the stigma thing, so many women came over to us and they were asking us questions and they wanted to take a leaflet and everything.
Yeah.
And then, but they still didn't then actually commit to coming to the class, and it's all because of that confidence. And I wish I could just say to them just come, honestly,
just take that first step.
As soon as you go to that first class, and we're so lucky. We're so lucky as well because we have such a supportive, loving community. That's one of the main things that I really wanted to focus on with my studio space, is just making sure that everyone there feels accepted and
and obviously I bet you have friendships that have come out of it, right? People that have done different classes and got chatting and that's always such a nice atmosphere.
Yeah, we've got a really nice community. Everybody gets on so well, and obviously I love all the girls and guys that are there. We are friends as well as that instructor-student relationship. But we've also got coming up at the end of this year, September, I'm doing my first showcase, which is going to be really fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah, so it's a nice opportunity for the students to perform and all their friends and family
and
can buy
work
tickets.
Towards something that maybe if they don't want to do competitions, do you know what I mean?
It's
to
the
be
perfect
able to,
alternative.
And such a good way to, again, break that stigma, to get people through the doors, to get people seeing what the sport is, what they do, and sort of how what the hobby looks like.
Yeah, exactly. And also, again, just giving them an opportunity to show their style, because it's some of the girls will do more heels stuff and
Yeah.
like the sexy flow stuff. And
The
then,
heels are so high. They look wicked.
But yeah, they're so fun, and it's just gives them a chance to express themselves, and that's what pole is all about. Like just being who you are.
Yeah.
And like showing
And
other
owning
people
it.
that. Yeah.
Which I love. I love all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you're based in Bagshot?
Yeah,
Which
Bagshot
is
Lane.
quite local. And yeah, I guess, can they get in contact? Obviously, will pin your sort of info onto this video. But can they contact it just through the Instagram?
Yeah,
Is it just a case of you've got a website?
Our website, which is GeminiStudiosPDA.com. Or they can message me directly. Many ways you can contact us, but all the booking systems like on the website anyway, so they can just book themselves on.
Oh, awesome. And it's just been so interesting highlighting these topics, and certainly a sport that I've not sort of delved into in any way, but I'm definitely going to get the gym involved, because I think that would be so much fun. It's been so nice to have you on and just talk about all of these different things. You are so welcome. And obviously, if any of you out there have any questions, probably not for me on this sense, but for Lucy, or you want Lucy to come back on, or you have any other questions, do obviously ping them across. And let us know what you think. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And hopefully you'll come back on at another point, and we'll have, I'm sure, more to talk about on similar subjects as well. But yeah, thank you so much, and hopefully we'll see you on the next episode. A big thank you for joining me on my channel and tuning in. Find me on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Amazon and YouTube at Diary to Empower. Follow me on Instagram, m_power.fitness, and TikTok, m.ibert. See you on the next episode.